Welcome to another episode of Coaching Through Uncertainty. I am your host, Brianna Hodges, National Faculty for Future Ready Schools. And joining us today is Dr. Will. I don't even really need to say his entire name because everybody across the country knows him as Dr. Will. He is one of our Future Ready instructional coach thought leaders and advisors, and I'm going to let him actually introduce the rest of himself to all of us out there. So, Dr. Will, tell us a little about who you are, where you are, and who you serve.
Thanks for the invitation. I am an instructional technologist for Hattiesburg Public School District, where I work with teachers from pre-K to high school. I love, what I'm doing. I sort of fell into this gig by accident, but it's been, a joy, and I love working with teachers. Even, in this time, what's really exciting is when you can kind of go in class and see something, you go, oh, and you get lost in it, and you sit through the whole period, and you're like, I was here 40 minutes. Okay. This was awesome. So I'm just excited right now, where other people may be sort of, have angst or feeling uncomfortable. I'm in my zone right now.
Well, and I absolutely love that because you have been an instructional technologist before the pandemic. And I think that that's one of those things for those of us who live and spend a lot of time in implementation and integration and digital learning and all of that. This is kind of our time where we're seeing a lot of the things that we've really been, trying to leverage in the classroom. Now we're finally getting to see that on a larger scale than what's happened before. And so, I absolutely can see, that this is a great time for you to be able to support teachers and support learning in this situation with some answers, whereas a lot of other people, it's definitely been uncertain. So that said, I'm gonna throw a quote that you have shared with me before, which is that you are all about whatever it takes to push learning, and whatever works and whatever it takes is something that you truly believe in. And I want to kind of pick your brain a little bit as somebody who is supporting pre-K through high school, pre-K through 12 in this time. How are you, providing some of the support and providing some comfort and some guidance for teachers as they're kind of struggling through, how to change their instruction?
I go for the win, right? And meaning I'm here to solve a problem. So if a teacher is struggling with, well, how do I do this or how do I do that? I don't come to them with sort of a grandiose picture of redesigning education and digital agility and transformation. I approach it from, let me solve your problem and we keep this train moving. Because for me, I can do all the fancy, the bells and whistles. I can, hey, touch here, touch there, touch there. But if they're not going to see the win, like what's in it for me, they're not going to see how this is going to affect me immediately. I can use it in my classroom immediately. That $2,400, that $3,000 that you just spent is just going to sit there and collect dust or used at a very minimum of its potential. And so that's how I really approach, my job in terms of the win.
So true, because if you try to explain something that's gonna really go into a lot of depth, especially at this point in time, right? Like we're in school. I need this right now. I need to have this fixed, and trying to move to a completely different level is not going to get that buy-in, get that opportunity to see it. If it's going to take me 25 steps, I'm not going to do it, right? Like, who cares if it's great? Like, I'm not going to, I'm not going to completely change my eating regime overnight. Like, I want this one thing that I need right now in order to fix it. And so I completely appreciate that. And I'm sure your teachers do as well, because it is that time where when we have so many uncertainties that are happening all the time, and we're constantly evolving, and if we're going to play buzzword bingo, pivoting and doing all these different things. How are you approaching your teachers who maybe haven't really leveraged a lot of technology in their classroom, trying to even just get started? I mean, that's one of those things where sometimes when you've used technology before, we can kind of move the game along, and you know what you don't know, and you know what has worked for you. But if this is like brand new, and I know there's a lot of teachers out there that this really is, brand new for us, trying to figure out how to do this. How do you get the boat moving a little bit?
Well, it's about how is this thing going to make sense, and how is this going to work? So, for example, you hear a lot of teachers on Twitter, and even my wife brought it up. She was like, it's a lot of craziness going on trying to be synchronous, trying to teach kids at home and teach kids at school at the same time. And, I'm one of those cats that when people say it's not about the technology, it's about the pedagogy, I go, let's stop. It is about the technology, because the technology has an impact on the pedagogy. So you can't separate it out. And so if you have the right tools, synchronous education becomes easier. Now, I'm not going to say easy, because that would imply that actually teaching online is easy, but it's a lot easier because it makes that communication, and it makes that way of teaching, it simplifies it for the teacher. So we have made an investment in bringing Promethean panels into our schools. And so now I can approach a teacher and say, okay, look, we're going to start this Zoom on this Promethean panel. You're going to invite your kids, and in that Promethean panel, you're going to share your screen. Now, the kids at home will see your board. The kids at school in your classroom will see your board. So they're seeing everything at the same time. So as you are, switching back to Schoology, or going to the whiteboard, or going to this site, and you're annotating, you're underlining, you're circling, you're doing all of these things, they're seeing the same stuff at the same time. Now, what you need to be able to do is not get lost and trying to give all your attention to the kids online or all attention in class. Let's have a conversation between both. Let's get everyone involved. So when I saw this great example where a teacher was on this math problem, she was in Schoology, and she asked the kids in the Zoom, it was a Google Meet, but she said, hey, what is the first step? A kid said distributive property. She said yes. So she wrote it on the Schoology, and then she turned around to the class and she said, "Hey, what's the second step?" Like-minded factors. Yes, yes. And then she went back and going back and forth, asking kids, "Okay, now we said distributive. Now what do we do when you multiply this times this? What do we get?" And then she'll say, "Oh, now pay attention to these." To your signs now. And to see that come together, she didn't have two classrooms, she had one. And that's where that technology comes into play. And I love how she managed it, because it wasn't just I'm here and I'm there, my students are here, I'm sitting there. She made sure that everyone is involved. And that's where, to me, in terms of keeping things very simple, and making sure that you're not trying to reinvent the wheel in terms of I'm trying to create a Netflix experience, but you are using the technology in a way that allows what you normally do, what you naturally do, especially what you do well, can be enhanced. And so that's sort of what I have been charged with now as these devices are coming in terms of how do we make this synchronous learning actually work?
I love that. I think that is one of those things that we are seeing across the country, is this, almost mental block, if you will, of the separation. Just like you said, there's the online, and then there's the in the classroom. And we're seeing it as two separate experiences, which then, as a teacher, it makes you feel like you have two preps to completely and totally support two different circumstances. And it is a different circumstance whenever you have, somebody who's in online and when you have somebody who's there in person. But at the same time, if you leverage that experience and have that same experience for both of them, by involving them at the same time in there, you're really able to create that experience. And that's one of those things that I keep hearing, from admin all across the country, is that what they're after is for that student, what we're all after is for that student, regardless of where they are, to have the same experience, the same opportunities. And so we don't want to have, here's the online experience and then here's the face-to-face experience. We want to, come into that. And so I think, a big part of that is choosing what is synchronous and then what is asynchronous, so then that way you, just like you do in the classroom already, where you're saying, okay, this is going to be lecture, this is going to be some independent work, this is going to be some group work, this is going to be some, rotation work, whatever that's going to look like, you create those same types of situations. Are you seeing, I know this is one of the conversations I was having with some folks earlier today about, in a socially distanced classroom, which is still not the same as a face-to-face environment, right? Like, how can I have my small groups when I'm in a socially distanced classroom? And, I would love your thoughts on what, I'm sure you're seeing some of this. I know you guys have been in a blend of virtual and face-to-face as well. How are you helping your teachers kind of wrap their minds around, even a socially distant classroom?
That's where, again, the tech, if you have it, makes things a lot easier, because you can actually put your students through those rotations on the Chromebook. So you can actually say, okay, they don't have to move around. Those kids can be, okay, in Schoology, this group will do this. This group will do Nearpods. This group will do an assignment and then, give their feedback on a Padlet. So you can have those rotations without kids actually moving. And with the Zoom, by the way, if you're using that, you have breakout rooms that you can pop your kids in. So even those kids who are in your classroom, they can join the Zoom with the kids at home. And you can pop them in breakout rooms right there in your classroom. And they can be doing that work together in terms of rotation, because you can say, okay, boom, this group 1, you'll be doing this, group 2, you'll be discussing this, group 3, etc. And so for me, always I tell teachers, you have to look at technology as what can it do better than you can do versus what you can do better than the technology. And this is where I tell teachers, you're always better at discussion. You're always better at inquiry. You're always better at pushing things forward. But certain things like formative assessment and content delivery and other things, there's no way you're going to beat Google. There's no way you're going to beat these things, because they have it automatically, right? Now, you can grade all day if you want to, but when you can pop this thing in Schoology and get this thing graded like that, where you can get that information, especially I've seen teachers, they're delivering a Nearpod lesson and they're like, oh, this is not going the way I expected. And so on a separate device, she's adding new instruction to that Nearpod as things are going on, because she's seeing, okay, they're having gaps. So I need to come in and come behind them. That's what, again, to where that technology makes things easier, because who has not been in a class as a teacher? Does everyone have it? Yes. And you move on because everybody said they have it. And then you either give a quiz and you go, ooh, they don't have it. But when you can embed those formative assessments in, you're now going, oh, they got it. Or these people have it, these people don't. And that's when you can do individual assigned work to, again, fill in those gaps. And those kids who are just off and running, you're not going to hold them back, right? Now you can give them that work to challenge them to move them forward. So, for me, it's all about how can we look at our kids and use this technology in ways that meet them where they are, understanding that we're teaching a mobile generation of students. So they interact with technology and their world around them totally different the way we do. And then not only that, as individuals meeting where they are, but meeting them where they are academically, and then using that technology in a way to not only fill in gaps, but also to push them forward.
I love that. There's so many things in there that just resonate with me. And I was thinking back to some of your comments earlier about finding the pain points. Like if you can sit down with that teacher, or even if you're a teacher at home and you're trying to figure out, okay, what can I do differently? What do I need to, if you focus on that pain point of, what are my kids not understanding, or what is the thing that's just really, holding me up on this? Is it that I thought that everybody had it and now obviously they don't? What would be a better way to understand that? If you can find that pain point, you're going to have a more direct route to a solution, as opposed to trying to find solutions and then figure out if those are something that you're interested in, right? And I think that is so smart for you to bring that to light, because that's where the overwhelm comes in my opinion, with teachers, where they're like, oh, what are all the great things that are out there? There are thousands, hundreds of thousands of great things out there, but they're not all going to be great for you. You have to figure out that thing that's not working, right?
Yes. In fact, I delivered some summer trainings this summer via some live webinars, and I actually had a teacher ask me, well, what about this program? What about that program? I said, we need to focus on what we pay for right now. And once you have mastered those and you feel comfortable with those, you have a routine with those, a workflow with those, then we can add in extra stuff. You can come to me with extra stuff. If you have any questions, you can come to me. But we're not chasing the shiny tech, because we don't want this to be like your TV, where you turn it on and you have like 500 channels and you're just flipping through and you're like, man, there's nothing to watch, because you have everything to watch. And so I do not want my teachers to, what you do on your own time, that's your business. But when I'm working with you, I'm not giving you a laundry list of tech, because if you have not gotten to that place to where you're like you're really cooking and you can put all these different ingredients in, you're very comfortable. Steak and potatoes, we keeping this thing right here. And once you're ready to expand, then we can go with there. But I want to keep it really simple and really be very strategic in how we start and how we build from there.
I love that. Yeah, we all start with very few recipes when we start cooking. I'm going to get this down. And once I get this down, then you start adding it a little bit more. Love that. Love that. The other thing that you said that really stuck out with me, especially for older grades, for those secondary students, is that these students are, they're a mobile generation. And I have two of my own. Mine are not in high school yet, thank goodness. But I have a second grader and I have I have a third grader. I'm going to be in trouble for that. I have a third grader and a sixth grader. And, they are so used to using their devices for certain things. And one of the things that jumped out at me when you were talking about that is that, these students are used to using text in so many different ways, right? Like they can be in the same room with each other and text each other. And as teachers, we need to remember that, because we might think that it's kind of strange to set up a classroom where they're sitting in the same room, but they're using these devices to communicate with each other. And that might feel weird as a teacher, because that's not something that we are accustomed to. And, I can already hear now there's going to be a lot of people saying, but we need to teach them social skills. We do. And at the same time, this is also the opportunity to make sure that we're getting a lot of great communication in. You're getting visual text, you're getting all kinds of stuff that comes in through that's really comfortable for them.
But that is a social skill. That is a digital literacy skill, which is social, because again, as you're talking about mobile students, our economy is becoming more mobile, and there are people who are just working from home now, and that means communicating via Zoom, communicating via text, communicating in different platforms and social groups. And as we are teaching our kids, I want to tell teachers, because always in my mind, and I know even our superintendent has mentioned this, our students will be using professional tools in ways that they would not only be familiar with now, but be prepared when they go to the next level. So whether that's going to work straight out of high school, or going into the military, or going into a post-secondary education program, that they have a certain mastery. So they're not getting to college and someone is saying, hey, a professor says, I need you to do this in the Google Doc. And they're like, what is a Google Doc? Or if some professor says, hey, I need you to make a video for this assignment, and they're lost, right? So, keep that in mind, that these are not just tools for learning, but tools for actual professional work as we move forward. There's a guy named Steve Lacy. He is a producer. He produces tracks for people like Kendrick Lamar, and he does it with an iPhone. Right. So I read an article about it, and then I saw him actually producing the track on the video online. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is doing on an iPhone. And so these kids have the power, right, in their hands. They have the world's information in their hands, and they have these creation devices in which, you're just limited by your imagination. And we don't need to let our fears, or what we're not comfortable with, make our classroom stagnant spaces for our students.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you said imagination. I like to say that we do often limit the imagination of our kids, and their ability, their interest and their engagement, because as a secondary teacher, as a former secondary teacher, one of the things that I ran into was all my kids would be like, or not all my kids, but most of my kids would be like, oh, I hate to write, and I'm not a good writer, and all this stuff. And the moment that I started asking them to create those same types of things, instead of write out an essay, I asked for them to make a video of it. And what the genius that is inside their minds, they now all of a sudden could utilize these tools to get that information out. And especially with my students that were really challenged with communication, whether special education students or English language learners, they had it inside them. But they, if you're not a gifted artist and somebody asks you to draw a picture, you're not going to spend a lot of time on it, because you're already telling yourself, like, it doesn't matter if I spend 4 seconds or 4 weeks or 4 months, my stick figure is going to look the same. And so they stop putting in all of their effort, because they know it's not going to come out right. Like, even though they can close their eyes and they see the most beautiful landscape ever, they can't make it happen. But if you put a device in their hands that allows them to drag and drop, like so many of these devices do, and really bring that to life, grades go through the roof, because suddenly they're able to make it happen, and they want to. And I think that is, I love that you bring that to light. Like, we forget about that as adults, because it wasn't something that we had. We just, we had to complete the poster board project, because that's what it was. And you just kind of got to make fun of everybody else's stick figures, because that was just what it was, but that's a huge opportunity in these situations. So I could talk to you all day long, Dr. Will. I for sure could. Every time I visit with you, I get so fired up about all the possibilities that are out there. But in the interest of time, I'm gonna kind of bring our conversation, I'm gonna start to bring it down a little bit. I do want to ask you 2 questions that we've been asking everybody in here. So, the first of those 2 questions is, we know that these are uncertain times. It seems like everything is continually changing. How do you, what is something that you bring to, bring with you every day that kind of helps you feel like, all right, I'm still headed in the right direction, even when you don't have a compass to guide you through this forest right now?
Everything is digital, right? I am a true believer of that everything is digital, and to be agile in my thinking and just embrace this ride. Don't try to fight it. Don't try to run from it. And that has been like real cool. Like I have not freaked out not once. Now the virus is different, but in terms of the work, I haven't freaked out at once because I'm thinking this is what this world is. It is not, we were fooled because we were thinking the world was what it was, but in the background, all this other stuff was happening before the virus hit. And when the virus shut things down and the world kept moving, but the digital became more forefront, other people were like, oh, what is this? But I felt like, oh, I'm home now. This is great. And so for me, it's just riding this digital wave and being flexible with, with whatever happens.
Love it. Love it. All right. As you can tell, you are, everybody out there listening to us, you've got to know that Dr. Will is hands down one of the top instructional leaders that we have in the country. And because of that, I know that you have some really strong plays in your playbook. I know you've got some go-to strategies that you use, or, kind of frameworks or things like that. So we're going to try to reach into your pocket and pick your pocket a little bit here. What's something that you could share with us that we could add to our playbook that could help us be a little bit more effective this year?
Do what you do best and not compare yourself to others. That would be the first thing. Even in my own job, even the teachers, I don't care what the teacher don't care what the teacher down the hall is doing, right? If that's not you, don't worry about that. Do what you do best and work at getting better at being yourself. You may not be the teacher who, students are going to do all of these bells and whistles, but that's great because at the end of the day, it's about your students learning beyond the test scores, but being fulfilled, right? Wanting to be in your class, wanting to hop on that Zoom or be in class and be really excited and feel joyous. And that is your primary goal. So it's about you just being better at being yourself. And so I never walk into a situation with teachers trying to remake them. Though the thought has crossed my mind sometimes. I'm like, man, if I could be a Marine right now, just break them down and rebuild them up, it'd be great. But I know that's not going to happen. So what I do is I figure out what does this teacher does well? What do they do well? I talk to them. I ask them questions, figure out what they want to do. And from there, we work together at them getting better. So it's not about me, trying to make them anything differently. It's just about me saying, let's do this thing together and be better again, be better at being yourself and just do you. And so I don't know if that's a helpful nugget, but that's my approach.
I think it is. I mean, there's no one answer. There's no one perfect person, situation, device, software, any of it. All of us are going to have strengths and some things that we can, some opportunities, right, in any situation. And so I think that is fantastic advice. Don't try to remake yourself to fit into a mold. Everybody needs you to be yourself and to really kind of drive into making those connections and being the best you that you can be. So I think that's fantastic. I know I got a lot of nuggets out of that. So thank you so much for that. I hope everybody out there, you grab that and put it in your toolbox. Don't try to remake everybody. Like, don't come in there, kick in the door like Kramer and start trying to tell everybody this is the perfect thing that you're going to go do, right? Like, meet them, meet teachers where they're at and support teachers and celebrate those amazing things that they are doing, and then try to find some solutions based around the pain points that they're having. So thank you so much, Joe. to our guest, Dr. Will. And thanks to all of you out there who are coaching through uncertainty. We are super grateful for you. I hope that you will join us in for the next episode. And remember that together we are better and together we are future ready. Coaching Through Uncertainty is a Future Ready Schools podcast series that explores the new shifts in teaching and learning that are happening right now. Future Ready instructional leaders, coaches, and teachers are navigating challenges that were theoretical, optional, or barely feasible only last year, but have now become full-blown, full-speed, in-the-moment realities. Coaching Through Uncertainty is hosted by me, Brianna Hodges, National Faculty for Future Ready Schools. In each episode, we'll connect with Future Ready coaches on a mission to inspire, engage, and amplify innovative professional practice. We'll hear from the nation's top instructional leaders as they share their experience, expertise, and advice to reimagine teaching and learning to better suit today's learners with tomorrow's tools. You can subscribe and listen to Coaching Through Uncertainty wherever you get your podcasts. Go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Coaching Through Uncertainty and Future Ready Schools are projects of the Alliance for Excellent Education. Together we're better. Together we're future ready.